Most will quit the moment the lights go half, dim and the applause stops. Most will announce a grand intention and then apologize for it with a string of reasons. Too tired, too busy, not the right moment, until the reasons begin to sound like a life sentence. But you are not most. The difference between the person who becomes a footnote and the person who becomes a force is not charisma or luck. It is the stubbornness to continue building after the gallery has left. Picture a construction site at dusk, cranes idle, the crew gone home, scaffolding creaking in the wind. Most see an abandoned project. The builder sees the plan, the exposed rebar, the one welded seam that, if tightened tomorrow, will change the entire skyline. That mental image is the currency of achievement. Napoleon Hill taught men to cultivate a burning desire. In our terms, that burning is not a mood but a machine, a deliberate day-by-day engine, where each small act adds a plank, bolts a girder, documents a change. Confidence is not an arrival. It is the residue of completed work. When Edison stroked another failed filament into his ledger, he did not sink into despair. He filed evidence. The man who keeps building is the one who turns failure into a balance sheet and then deposits the deposit into a future they can spend. You must learn to treat your attention like a piece of machinery you are paid to manage. Attention scattered across 1,000 apps is like water leaking through a dozen holes. Nothing collects, nothing powers the turbine. The modern genius lies not in more ideas, but in the courage to narrow the beam until it cuts through fog. Ford engineered his assembly line to remove decision from labor. You must engineer your morning to remove argument from action. Design environments that make the right thing the easiest thing. Place the keyboard where your hand goes first. Put the phone in a drawer that requires intention. Reserve one lamp that only turns on for production. Rituals are not sentimental. They are mechanical advantages. The act of showing up under the same light every day sends a signal to your nervous system. This is proof. Time and proof, not feeling, is what buys you the right to call yourself competent. Belief without evidence is theater. Speak with conviction, yes, but then translate that speech into artifacts that can be verified. Say aloud what you will complete today, and then make the statement falsifiable. Give it a timestamp, a deliverable, a screenshot someone can point at and say, "There Napoleon Hill insisted on definiteness of purpose because he knew the mind will follow a clear, measurable endpoint." Turn purpose into a ledger entry. Not "I want to be known," but "I will ship chapter 1 by Friday." Not "I will be fit," but "I will log 30 minutes of hard movement at 6 a.m. and record it." Convert belief into a set of experiments with short durations and visible outcomes. Each experiment is a small vote for the future you intend to inhabit. The votes compound, the ledger thickens. The voice in your head that once said maybe begins to run out of oxygen. There will be temptation to grandiosity because grand plans soothe the ego. They promise transformation without the abrasive work of repetition. Do not fall for the seduction. Greatness is a sequence of mundane confirmations, a sent email, a posted link, an uploaded build, a shared screenshot. Disney did not conjure a theme park out of an idea in one afternoon. He iterated models, tested guest reactions, moved benches, changed colors, watched behavior and adjusted. He treated wonder like an engineering problem. Hypothesis, prototype, data, revision. The market does not reward eloquent dreams. It rewards consistent, visible progress. This is the ruthless arithmetic of reality. Produce a proof every week, and the world begins to notice patterns. Patterns invite investment. Patterns attract collaborators. Patterns transform rumor into reputation. You must become a scientist of your own fear. Fear is not an adversary to be vanquished by pep talks. Fear is data waiting to be parsed. When your mind tells you failure equals ruin, interrogate the claim. What is the actual probability? What resources are at stake? What is the smallest, cheapest test that produces an answer? When Edison faced a filament that failed in 1,000 ways, he did not retreat into apologia. He cataloged variables and designed the next experiment. You must do the same. Turn catastrophe into a controlled variable. Run micro, tests that give you the information to improve rather than opinions to paralyze. Data is merciless and honest. It cannot be flattered by wishful thinking. And once you begin to collect that data, you will notice how quickly imagined disasters shrink. Resilience is not dramatic endurance. It is the establishment of repair protocols. Anticipate the moment you will want to quit and script the recovery. 5 minutes to name the feeling, 15 minutes to list 3 possible fixes, 30 minutes to run the fastest experiment that could change the trajectory. Make your recovery public when appropriate. Lincoln, battered by loss and ridicule, leaned on the practice of writing his mistakes into policy and returning to work with clarified purpose. Public repair shortens shame's lifespan. It replaces seclusion with practice and invites correction. When you publish your small corrections, you do 2 things at once. You reduce the mythic power of failure, and you advertise your willingness to iterate. Allies are attracted to frankness and process, not to polished personas. Learning must be weaponized into action. Reading without a follow. Up-test is intellectual consumption, not investment. After each book or lecture, extract 1 principle and turn it into a 7-day experiment. Teach the result publicly. Post a thread, record a clip, tell a friend. And then measure. Teaching compresses understanding because the moment you must explain, gaps reveal themselves. Disney's teams learn to watch patrons, record where they hesitated, and then teach the staff what worked. Your learning loop must be ingest. Apply, measure, teach, iterate. Do this and you will compound faster than the person who hoards knowledge quietly. Gratitude may sound soft, but it is a tactical amplifier. Thanking someone publicly is not mere politeness. It is an investment that increases the odds the network will reciprocate. Carnegie engineered influence with specific praise that contained a social contract, recognition followed by an implicit obligation. Adopt that discipline. Each morning, name 3 assets. 1 person who can help. 1 skill you can deploy. 1 modest resource you can spend, and then act on them. Send a thank, you note, and a small offer of value. People return to those who notice them and who provide utility. Gratitude becomes a capital you can draw from in lean times. Identity is not a label you declare. It is a ledger compiled of small finishes. You do not become a writer by saying so. You become one by publishing pages. You do not become a founder by speaking at meetups. You become one by shipping prototypes that other people interact with and by closing the first sales. Napoleon Hill wrote about definiteness of purpose because he recognized that the human psyche needs a concrete destination to organize around. Translate your larger purpose into micro-contracts, a weekly deliverable, a daily ritual, an accountability partner who will ask for receipts. Let these small public acts accrue until identity is not a narrative you tell yourself, but a pattern others experience. There will be days the ledger feels thin and the critics loud. Ignore the chorus of certainty from those who never attempted the climb. The person who builds will always be mistaken for a fool until the first roof goes on. Remember Ford, who was mocked for his audacity until the factory roared and roads filled with his cars. The mockery of momentary failure is cheap. The cost of quiet persistence is priceless. Keep returning to the work in the early hours, when the world is still asleep, and the only witness you have is your own willingness to do the small, disagreeable thing that moves the project forward. Those hours compound into dominion tonight. Prepare your workplace like a small ritual chamber. Place one file where your hand will find it first. Set a lamp that only means production. Hide your phone in 2 drawers. Tell one relentless person the exact link you will post by 9 a.m. and give them permission to shame you if you do not. Sleep with the intention lodged like a gear in your mind. In the morning, when the critical voice whispers its litany of reasons to wait, let the machine you assembled yesterday act for you. Open the file, ship the small thing, post the screenshot, close the loop. The first deposit into your ledger will sound small, an email sent, a page published. But to the system that rewards results, it will matter more than 1,000 speeches. Build the habit of finishing and watch how the world's questions turn from "Can you?" to "What next?" Keep building. Most will quit. You keep building. Most of the world confuses motion for movement, noise for narrative, activity for advancement. They will tell you they are working while their calendar looks like a collage of interruptions. Their to-do list a monument to indecision. You will learn to read their schedule like the lines of a face. The more fragmented the day, the more likely the person is composing a life of comfortable excuses. This is not an indictment. It is an observation with a remedy. The remedy is ruthless simplification. Decide the one metric that matters this quarter, the one number that, if moved, rewrites the story you tell about your life, and reduce your work to experiments aimed solely at shifting that metric. If you are a creator, that metric might be daily active readers. If you are a founder, it might be paying customers. If you are a leader, it might be a measurable change in team output. Once chosen, every morning becomes a negotiation with evidence. What micro step will I take today that produces a visible change? Napoleon Hill taught directness of purpose, not for poetic clarity, but for tactical advantage. When your purpose is a measurable target, you either produce evidence or you do not. There is no middle ground. This converts vague hope into daily accountability. The mind likes to complicate because complication is disguise. It dresses fear in analysis and calls delay due diligence. You will cut through that performance by establishing a ritual as authoritarian as any military cadence. Rituals do not ask for permission. They command habit. The first hour is sacrosanct. Light the lamp, that means work. Sit in the chair that has borne proofs before and execute the same small finishable act. You promised the night prior. Your nervous system learns to trust the pattern. Your ego learns to step aside when habit takes the wheel. A ritual is simply a commitment device you can enforce without moral drama. Ford did not wake to charisma. He designed a line where the right motion became the easiest motion. You will design your line, make the first choice of every day the one that requires zero creativity, something mechanical, repeatable, meaningful. Send the email, finish the paragraph, push the build. Each month, the ledger thickens. The ledger does not flatter, it proves. Belief will wake when it senses receipts. Many preachers of optimism offer you belief as an abstract tonic. You will translate that tonic into trials. Instead of praying to become brave, you will program bravery into an action plan. A sequence of micro experiments designed to stretch your competence until the stretch feels like habit. When Lincoln faced humiliation, he did not consult oracles. He read, he wrote, he argued, and he returned to the field with slightly altered strategy. That is how belief grows, by being tested in the world and surviving. Create cheap tests, a landing page, a 30-second live demo, 5 outreach emails. The cost is low, the clarity is high. The data either affirms your thesis or it collapses it quickly, saving you years of wasted confidence. Confidence that is not earned is brittle. Confidence that is forged by repeated validation becomes structural. Chase the proof that forces belief to root itself. In fact, clarity is violent to ambiguity. It rends the comfortable fog that lets you float while the calendar fills with trivia. To be clear is to be cruel to distraction. Ask yourself, which one result this week changes our trajectory? Make that question non-negotiable. Cut everything else ruthlessly. The people who accomplish extraordinary things are not more talented. They are more selective. Their calendars are lean sprints toward a single assertion. This week we will finish something the world can see. When you practice such brutal clarity, the daily grind transforms from meaningless exertion into a sequence of punctuated tests. You will learn to read outcomes, engagement, revenue, feedback as honest interlocutors. They tell you what to repeat and what to abandon. Do not negotiate with applause. Negotiate with metrics. Vision without specific steps is a mirage. Purpose without proof is mere sermon. Your vision must be carved into a 10-year silhouette and then reduced into weekly acts that are visible and scored. Think like an architect. Sketch the skyline. Then lay 1 brick per awning. Each brick should be inspectable. If you want to be known for mastery, let others inspect the specimen of your craft daily. Napoleon Hill's definiteness of purpose is the old blueprint. Your modern translation is the weekly deliverable schedule. One measurable act that compounds in this way. Vision becomes not a distant halo, but a map with checkpoints. When everything is articulated in terms of visible outcomes, you convert investors of time into investors of trust. Discipline is not punishment. It is preservation. It preserves your capacity to build when novelty and fatigue conspire to derail you. Discipline is the architecture of freedom. It frees you from the tyranny of mood so you can execute when mood deserts you. The disciplined person reduces choices, schedules micro, rests, and treats their body as the machine that enables production. Consider sleep and nutrition not as optional or aspirational, but as logistics. The exhausted mind is porous to distraction. The rested mind is selective and savage. Build the scaffolding. 40-minute work blocks, short walks to reset, a ritualized wind down to protect sleep quality. Treat these as non-negotiable contracts with your future output. Liberty is bought by discipline. Action is not dramatic theater. It is steady, stubborn plumbing. The internet will intoxicate you with overnight success stories and silence the pipes of real work. Remember Edison, in the ledger of his failures is not tragedy but method. He ran 1,000 experiments because each one informed the next with clear variables. You will adopt a similar contempt for the illusion of ease. When you act, do so with iterative modesty. Move fast, measure, and adjust. Ship ugly, ship early. Allow the market to sharpen you. Buyers, readers, users. They do not fall for possibility. They respond to prototypes. Release the work and listen to the data. It will be merciless and honest. Let it shape you. Gratitude. In the schema of builders is tactical reciprocity. Give precise thanks and offer precise value. Carnegie's mastery of human relationships was not sentimentality. It was transactional generosity, a well-timed genuine thank you, and a small piece of useful work in return creates obligation and goodwill that compounds. Gratitude lubricates networks. It invites reciprocity at a time you will need it most. Name 3 people every week who have moved you forward, and then do a small, useful thing for each. This is not weakness. It is the currency of leverage. Those who help you when you are messy will stand with you when you are inevitable. Adaptability is rehearsal for disruption. The world will not wait for your route to be perfect. It will change the terrain beneath your feet. Your advantage is the ability to reconfigure rapidly. Practice micro, pivots, test new channels, tweak messaging, alter pricing for short sprints. These are not capitulations. They are controlled experiments designed to produce answers, not narratives. When the storm comes, you will not panic because you have rehearsed the pivot. You will reroute with the calm of someone who has run dozens of small corrections and knows how to read responses. Adaptability is not being everywhere. It is being right where the data points you. Resilience is a protocol, not a personality trait. When the work fails, do not perform sorrow as a costume. Perform repair as a craft. Name the failure in plain language. Pick one variable to alter. Run the revision publicly if possible, and publish the result. You will find shame shrinks when exposed to the light of process. Allies appear when you are transparent and procedural. People rally to those who show the map of their repair, not those who dramatize the pain. Make resilience visible, and the world will not merely pity you. It will help you. Learning must be an applied compounder. Convert reading into tests. Convert tests into public teaching. The act of teaching forces clarity, reveals gaps, and accelerates mastery. Disney listened to patrons, and then taught his teams the mechanics of delight. You will replicate that loop, ingest, apply, measure, teach, iterate. Make your learning visible. Let your audience be your lab. Identity is not claimed. It is revealed through accumulation. Each small finish is a vote toward who you become. Cast those votes publicly. The person who wants to be recognized as a builder must show the scaffolding often. Each public finish reduces friction for the next opportunity. The market stops asking whether you can and begins asking when you will. That is leverage. Tonite, assemble the tools of tomorrow. One file that proves progress. One lamp that signals production. One person who will demand evidence at a fixed time. Hide the distractions. Sleep with intent. Wake and execute the smallest irreversible act that moves your metric. Repeat until the ledger is indisputable. Most will quit. You do not. You keep building. Most will tire before the blueprint is ironed into a roof and will call their retreat a lesson. You will call it a postponement and return with tools. Hear this like a bell. The distance between a person with a dream and a person with a legacy is paid in small, visible acts, not in slogans, not in weekends of enthusiasm, not in perfectly staged start days. Legacy is not gifted, it is assembled. Imagine a city built at night by those who refuse the applause of day, their scaffolds lit, their welders humming, the half-erected skeletons of ambition taking shape while the leisure crowds sleep. Those builders do not wait for the weather of mood to be favorable. They make weather. They create a microclimate of habit that forces growth. Napoleon Hill wrote about the definiteness of purpose. This is the modern creed of method. Convert purpose into a weekly ledger and defend that ledger with everything you have. Make your first deposit tomorrow a visible thing. One screenshot, one sent receipt, one live link that is public, time-stamped, and undeniable. Let it be ugly. Let it be blunt. The ugliness means nothing beside the function. Edison's notebooks are filled with ugly results that mapped the path to brilliance. Disney's first animatics were crude frames that taught him how wonder behaves in the world. The market does not reward the tidy myth of genius. It rewards the stubbornness to iterate, to test, to ship. You will be offered many philosophies that sell identity without the cost of action. Be yourself. Follow passion. Trust the journey. These truisms dilute the muscle that actually makes a life. Discipline is not a tyrant. It is a craftsman who returns at dawn, whether you feel like it or not. It sets up the scaffolding so that when the storm hits, the work does not collapse. Protect your first hour like a vault that contains the currency of your future. Let the world claw for minutes that will not be given. Short-circuit the dialogue where doubt seduces you into revisionism. Use rituals as your enforcers. A lamp reserved for work. A chair that has borne the weight of proof before. A jacket that means production. These are not props for affectation. They are systems that reduce the number of decisions you must make at the most vulnerable moment, dawn. The fewer choices you face, the greater your chance of keeping the promise you whispered last night. Make small promises and keep them publicly. The human brain resists cognitive dissonance. When you loudly assert, "I shipped it," your hands will find a way to make that true. The world will try to convince you that fear is a sign you're in the wrong room. Ignore that propaganda. Fear is a barometer, not a verdict. It measures exposure, not failure. You transform fear by changing the scale. Make experiments so small that failure becomes instruction, not catastrophe. Break a monstrous hypothesis into 15-minute tests. Run them, collect data. If the test proves wrong, you have not lost. You have learned. When Ford's investors mocked his persistence, he did not quit. He optimized. When Lincoln faced political ruin, he read and wrote and returned with incremental advantage. Your resilience is nothing mystical. It is a suite of repair procedures you can execute reliably. Name the mistake. Isolate one variable. Run the microtest. Publish the repair. Public repairs shorten shame. They attract aid. They convert your losses into an outline. Others can read and rally to. Vulnerability paired with process becomes a magnet for support, not a repellent. Clarity is a weapon against procrastination. Replace. I will work on my project with, I will publish 800 words and a headline at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow. Replace, I want to start a company with, I will send 5 value, first cold emails by Friday. Specificity collapses excuses. When your objective is measurable, the day rearranges itself to serve that target. Napoleon Hill's definiteness of purpose is not a spiritual flourish. It's the tactical choice that organizes your minutes into leverage. Choose one metric this quarter that, when moved, changes the entire narrative of your work. Revenue, activation, a minimum viable audience, and make every morning a negotiation with that single number. Short experiments aimed at shifting that metric are the currency of modern mastery. Learning becomes a superpower when you force it into the lab of action. Do not read to accumulate elegant ideas. Read to harvest one principle and test it within 7 days. Teach the result publicly. Teaching forces clarity and speeds compounding. Disney and Edison did not hoard insight. They tested in public, adjusted, and taught teams what worked. When you do the same, ingest, apply, measure, teach, you accelerate reputation and skill simultaneously. The person who knows a lot privately is always a step behind the person who publishes iterative work publicly. The latter gets feedback, corrections, and traction. Make your education visible. Let your mistakes be the map that guides others and the evidence that guides you. Gratitude is not flattery. It is strategic recipe. Name 3 people who have moved you forward and then do something small yet useful for each. Carnegie was surgical with praise and exchange. He turned appreciation into obligation and obligation into influence. Your network is an orchard. Plant, tend, harvest, then plant again. Timely, precise gratitude builds relational capital that will repay in moments when you need introductions, endorsements, or the rough hands of collaborators. Use gratitude as a protocol. Brief thanks plus a micro offer equals durable leverage. Adaptability is the rehearsal for a changing stage. The marketplace pivots, attention shifts, channels die and are born. Your edge is not predicting the next wave, but practicing pivoting in increments. Run 1-week channel experiments, 10-day price variations, headline a FING sprints. These small rehearsals build a nervous system that responds with composure, not panic. The person who wins in turbulent times is not the one who predicted everything. It's the one who practiced responding to change rapidly until it becomes second nature. Identity is not declared. It accrues. Every public finish is a vote for who you become. Cast those votes widely and often. Ship your paragraph, your demo, your offer. Each act is a deposit in the ledger of your life. Over time, the ledger stops doubt. When others can point to a trail of receipts, they stop asking whether you can and start asking where you will deliver next. That transition is leverage. That transition is invitation. The market privileges proof over promises. Stack your proof until the noise of skepticism is drowned. Tonight, make the plan that removes plausible excuses. Choose one brutal, finishable item for the morning. Make it small enough you cannot rationalize away doing it, but large enough that it changes perception. A posted landing page, an uploaded demo, a sent proposal. Place the file where your hand will reach first. Put your phone in a drawer that requires 2 actions. Light the lamp that equals production. Tell one relentless person the exact link you will share by a named time and give them permission to shame you if you fail. Sleep with that promise lodged in your muscles. In the morning, when the mind offers its familiar list of reasons to wait, remember you built a machine last night to prevent that negotiation. Open the file, ship it, publish the proof, and close the loop. Most will quit when the work gets dull and the applause evaporates. Most will market charm and avoid the ledger. You will do the opposite. You will keep adding planks, tightening bolts, and depositing proofs until the structure you are building blocks out the skyline of your future. And the city of mediocrity cannot cast a shadow over it. Continue. Keep arranging your life in a way that makes the right action the simplest action. Keep turning belief into experiments, fear into data, setbacks into public repairs, learning into teaching, and gratitude into leverage. Build the ledger, publish the receipts, and let the evidence do the speaking they wish they could buy. Most will quit. You keep building. There will be a moment, predictable, petty, and precise, when the original fire feels too costly. The novelty evaporates, the forums thin out, and the people who promised to cheer are gone. That is the crucible. It is when the structure either gains another floor or becomes a collection of abandoned scaffolds. Most will retreat to stories that make them comfortable. I learned, I tried, timing was off. Those are polite exits. You will refuse the politeness. The work requires an appetite for the unglamorous, the repetitive task, the ugly draft, the call that produces silence. This is not drama. It is mechanics. Edison did not dramatize his failures. He logged them. Lincoln did not brood. He litigated his doubts into policy. Carnegie did not wait for inspiration. He engineered influence by 1,000 small acts of recognition. You are not building a legend. You are building a ledger. That ledger holds the proof that will one day make your name inevitable. Understand the economy you live in. Attention is currency. Proof is collateral. The market does not invest in feelings. It invests in evidence. 1,000 manifestos mean nothing without a single finished thing people can use, read, buy, or touch. When a link exists, behavior can be measured. When behavior is measured, learning accelerates. So convert dreams into transactions, a posted article, a sent proposal, a live prototype. Make the smallest unit of progress something that can be shown in a screenshot. That is the algebra of credibility. The first time someone can say, "I saw it about your work," they shift from spectator to potential participant. The second time, they begin to expect you. The third time, they begin to trust you. Trust is the byproduct of pattern. Pattern is made by repetition. Under discipline is the architecture of endurance. It is not punishment. It is pre-commitment. Think like an engineer designing fail. Safes remove choices that invite delay. Replace options with obligations. When you drink from the well of habit, the current of will is conserved for decisions that matter. Set rituals that are immovable. The lamp that only means work. The chair that has known long hours. The sequence you perform without thinking. Open the file. Write for 30 minutes. Save, close, send. Ritual softens the friction of beginnings. Ford designed the assembly line so that each worker performed one motion with flawless repeatability. You will design your day so the first motion is always production. That practice is not austere. It is ultimately generous to your future self. Fear will lie with convincing cadence. It will dress itself in rationality and bore you into retreat. When that voice convinces you the moment is wrong, interrogate it with the tools of quick experiments. Break your fear into measurable components. How likely is the failure? What would it cost? What can I test for under a day and under a small budget? Edison rendered failure into a spreadsheet of variables. Do the same. A small experiment annihilates catastrophic imagination by forcing your mind to look at numbers instead of stories. The result is liberation. Fear becomes information, not ammunition. Be earnest about repair. When a launch bombs or a pitch falters, do not vanish. Publish what happened. Write one brutal, clear post that says what failed and what you will change. That single act accomplishes more than weeks of private shame. It shortens the half-life of embarrassment and invites people who know how to help. Lincoln's public letters, Edison's notebooks. These were not confessions. They were manuals for repair. Public repair is a signal. You are willing to iterate in the light. Allies prefer that. Opportunists do not. Learning must be remade as praxis. Adopt the one-week experiment rule. Read a principle. Implement it in 7 days. Record the result. Teach the lesson publicly. When Disney wanted to understand delight, he built low-fidelity mock-ups and watched where people halted or laughed. He did not theorize, he observed. You will do the same. Small prototypes, measured reactions, fast iterations. Teaching compresses insight into muscle. When you must explain, your thinking tightens. Do not learn for the sake of novelty. Learn to test. Then publish the test. Gratitude is not sentimental. It is leverage. Thank the person who introduced you, the teacher who corrected you, the early user who made a suggestion, but do not stop at words. Offer small, deliberate value in return. An intro, a testimonial, a piece of work. Carnegie converted praise into obligations that open doors. You will convert gratitude into a network that actually acts. Keep receipts of generosity. When you need help, you will not beg. You will call upon a ledger of exchanges. Adaptability is not the heroic invention of new identities. It is the practiced ability to reconfigure rapidly. Practice micro, pivots. Change one variable at a time and measure for a week. Try a different headline, a different price, a different distribution channel. The person who survives chaos is not the one with the best prophecies, but the one who has rehearsed adjustments until they are reflexive. Short feedback loops are your training ground. They teach you what the market actually values, not what you wish it would. Resilience is procedural, not romantic. It is less about grit and more about flow. Name the failure. Isolate one variable. Run the fastest corrective experiment. Publish the result. Repeat. Make your recovery visible. This reduces shame and summons collaborators. People rally to process. They turn away from spectacle. When you show how you fix something, they want a role in the fix. Identity is earned in the small acts that accumulate until the world can no longer pretend your previous limitations are your essence. You do not become a leader by claiming it. You become one by delivering results under pressure, by guiding a team through a tiny crisis and emerging with a measurable outcome. You become a creator by publishing consistently, week after week. The market rewards the person who does the hard, boring thing repeatedly. Show your pattern until people start expecting it. Become predictable in your production and unpredictable in your improvement. Tonight, prepare the apparatus of your tomorrow. Choose one specific, finishable thing that will be indisputable proof in the morning. A published link, an uploaded file, a sent invoice. Make it small enough. You cannot rationalize avoiding it. Large enough that it meaningfully shifts perception. Place the file where your hand will find it before your doubts wake. Put your phone in a drawer that requires intention. Light the lamp that only means work. Tell one relentless person the exact link and the exact time you will post it, and give them permission to shame you if you do not. Sleep with the object of proof literally under your pillow or metaphorically lodged in your muscles. When morning comes and hesitation knocks, remember the machine you built last night will do the work for you. Open the file, ship the thing, post the screenshot, close the loop. Most will quit at dusk when the applause fades. They will choose the polite narratives and leave scaffolds to rust. You will choose otherwise. You will keep welding, keep nailing, keep depositing into your ledger until the skyline reads your name. Build the habit of finishing. Convert fear into data, failure into repair, learning into public tests, gratitude into leverage. Each small, visible act is a vote cast toward the future you intend to inhabit. The votes compound. The ledger thickens. The world that once asked whether you could will stop asking and start expecting. Most will quit. You keep building. Now go make the first deposit.